I stopped at the pharmacy twice a week, always on Tuesday and Friday evenings. Same route, same parking spot near the back entrance. Same 5-minute conversation with Margaret at the counter, who'd been filling my prescriptions for the past 3 years. She knew what I needed before I even reached the counter anymore. But before I continue, I need you to understand something. This isn't just another story about betrayal. This is about how the smallest details can unravel an entire life, and how sometimes the people we trust most are the ones we should question. Please, stay with me through this. Like and subscribe if you want to hear more stories like this one, because what I discovered changed everything I thought I knew about love and loyalty. My name is Marcus, and 3 years ago, my wife Lauren was in a car accident that left her with what doctors called a severe traumatic brain injury. She was in a medically induced coma at Toronto General Hospital for 2 months before they brought her out of it, but she never woke up. Not really. The neurologist, Dr. Patel, sat me down in his office on a gray October afternoon and explained that Lauren was in what they called a minimally conscious state. She could breathe on her own. Her heart was strong, but there was no meaningful brain activity, no response to stimuli, no awareness of her surroundings. How long? I asked him. He adjusted his glasses and looked at me with that practiced sympathy doctors develop over years of delivering bad news. We can't say for certain, Marcus. Some patients emerge after weeks, some after months, some never do. I'm sorry. Lauren was 32 years old. We'd been married for 5 years, together for 8. She was a graphic designer who worked from home, talented and ambitious, with a laugh that could fill a room. We'd been trying for a baby. That's where she was going the night of the accident, actually. To the pharmacy to pick up her prenatal vitamins because we'd just found out she was 6 weeks pregnant. The pregnancy didn't survive the accident. After 4 months in the hospital with no change, the doctors recommended we move Lauren to a long-term care facility. But I couldn't do it. I couldn't send her to some sterile building where she'd be just another patient, rotated every 2 hours by overworked staff who didn't know her, didn't know that she hated the smell of lavender or that she always slept on her left side. So I brought her home. Our insurance covered a hospital bed, monitoring equipment, and a visiting nurse who came 3 times a week to check her vitals and help with her care. The nurse, Patricia, was a kind woman in her 50s who taught me everything: how to prevent bed sores, how to do range of motion exercises to prevent muscle atrophy, how to use the feeding tube that provided Lauren's nutrition. I moved my home office into our bedroom so I could be near her. I was lucky that my job as a software developer let me work remotely. I'd take breaks throughout the day to talk to her, to play her favorite music, to read aloud from the novels she'd been in the middle of reading. The doctor said there was a small chance she could hear me, that familiar voices might help. So I talked. I talked about my day, about the weather, about the neighborhood cat that kept sitting on our porch. I talked until my voice was hoarse, hoping that somewhere in the silence she was listening. Patricia had warned me about the physical changes I'd see, the muscle wasting despite our best efforts. The way Lauren's face would become thinner, her body smaller. It's normal, she assured me. Someone who can't move, who can't exercise, their body changes. But here's what started to bother me around the 18-month mark. Lauren didn't look like she was wasting away. I first noticed it on a Tuesday evening in April. I'd just gotten back from the pharmacy with her medications and feeding supplies. I walked into the bedroom to check on her before starting dinner, and something felt off. Her arms, resting on top of the blanket, looked toned, not wasted. The definition in her shoulders was subtle but definitely there. I stood in the doorway, staring, trying to remember if she'd always looked like this. But no, I'd seen bedridden patients before. During my hospital vigil, I'd seen how their bodies changed. This wasn't that. I pushed the thought away. Maybe the exercises I did with her were working better than expected. Patricia said I was diligent about her care. Maybe that was it, but then I noticed her hands. I was doing her evening routine on a Friday, changing her position, checking for pressure points. When I saw it, her nails. They were painted, a soft coral color, professionally done with a clear top coat that caught the lamplight. I stood there, holding her hand, my mind racing. Patricia had been here Wednesday. She didn't do nails. The personal support worker, who came to help with bathing on Mondays, definitely didn't do nails. I didn't do nails. So who did? I checked my phone calendar. scrolling back through the past few weeks. Had someone visited? Lauren's sister Emma came by occasionally, but she always texted first, and I hadn't seen her in over a month. Lauren's mother had been here 2 weeks ago, but she'd sat in the living room mostly, too upset to spend much time in the bedroom. Neither of them would have painted Lauren's nails without mentioning it to me. I sat on the edge of the bed, still holding her hand, looking at those perfectly manicured nails. There was something else, too. The cuticles were pushed back cleanly. The nail beds were healthy and pink. This wasn't old polish someone had applied weeks ago. This was recent. Maybe days old at most. "Who's taking care of you?" I whispered to Lauren's still form. She didn't answer. She never did. The only sound was the quiet hum of the monitoring equipment and the rhythmic whoosh of the air purifier in the corner. I started paying attention after that. Really paying attention. On Sunday morning, I noticed her hospital gown was different. Not a different style, but actually different. I'd bought 5 of the same adaptive gowns online, light blue with snaps up the back for easy changing. I rotated through them, washing 2 at a time, while she wore the others. But this one had a tiny stain near the hem that I'd never seen before. A small brown mark, like coffee or tea. I checked the laundry hamper in the bathroom. The gown she'd been wearing yesterday was there, but it was one of the clean ones I'd just put on her 2 days ago, which meant this stained one had come from somewhere else. My hands started shaking as I went through the closet, checking the other gowns hanging there. 4 gowns. There should be 5 total, 2 in the wash, 3 clean, but I was only finding 4. Someone was changing her clothes. I sat down hard on the bedroom floor, my back against the closet door, trying to make sense of it. Patricia came 3 times a week, always when I was home. The PSW came Mondays at 10 in the morning, also when I was here. No one had access to this house when I wasn't home. I'd only given keys to Emma and to my best friend David, and David had never even used his. Unless someone was coming when I wasn't home. But I was always home. I worked from home. I only left for groceries, for the pharmacy, for the occasional walk to clear my head. And even then, I was never gone more than an hour. Except, every Wednesday night, I had a standing video call with my team in Vancouver. The time difference meant the meeting ran from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. my time. I took those calls in my office on the main floor, door closed so I wouldn't disturb Lauren with my voice. 2 hours, every Wednesday. I looked at my watch. Sunday, 11:30 a.m. 3 days until Wednesday. I spent those 3 days preparing. I called David and asked if I could borrow his dash cam. Just for a few days, I told him. Want to make sure the car's running okay. He didn't question it. David had been my friend since university. He'd been there through the accident, through the decision to bring Lauren home, through every dark moment of the past 3 years. If he noticed the strain in my voice, he didn't mention it. On Wednesday afternoon, I installed the dash cam in my car, but I didn't point it at the street. I angled it toward our house, toward the side door that led into the mudroom. From this angle, it would catch anyone coming or going. I also set up my laptop in the bedroom, hidden behind a stack of medical supply boxes on the dresser. I used software I'd originally installed to monitor the house when we went on vacation. Before the accident, the camera would record motion, save it to cloud storage. At 7:45 p.m., I kissed Lauren's forehead like I always did before my meeting. "I'll be back in a couple hours," I said softly. Same as always. I went downstairs, closed my office door, and logged into the video call. But I also had my phone propped on the desk beside me, open to the laptop camera feed upstairs. The meeting started. My manager was talking about Q2 projections. Someone was sharing their screen with a PowerPoint about user engagement metrics. I watched my phone. At 8:17 p.m., the bedroom camera detected motion. My heart stopped. I watched as Lauren's form shifted in the bed. Small movements at first, like someone waking up. Then her hand moved to her face, rubbing her eyes. She turned her head, looking around the room, and then she sat up. I couldn't breathe. For a moment, all I could think was that she'd woken up, that somehow, miraculously, after all this time, Lauren was coming back to me. I was half out of my chair, ready to run upstairs, when she did something that froze me in place. She checked her watch. It was a deliberate movement, casual, like someone checking the time before an appointment. Then she pulled back the blankets, swung her legs over the side of the bed, and stood up. She stood up. No wobbling, no weakness, no sign of someone who'd been bedridden for 3 years. She stretched her arms over her head, rolled her shoulders, and walked to the closet. I watched through the phone screen as my wife, who'd been in a coma for 3 years, who couldn't feed herself or speak or even blink in response to stimuli, opened the closet door and pulled out clothes. Regular clothes. Jeans and a sweater. She changed quickly, efficiently, like someone running late. Then she grabbed a purse from the top shelf of the closet, a purse I'd never seen before, and walked out of frame toward the bedroom door. "Marcus? You still with us?" My manager's voice cut through the fog in my brain. "Sorry," I managed. Connection dropped for a second. "Can you repeat that?" I wasn't listening to his answer. I was watching the dashcam feed now, watching the side door of my house. 30 seconds later, it opened, and Lauren walked out. She stood on the back step for a moment, looking around our yard like she was checking for observers. Then, a car pulled into the driveway. A silver Honda Civic that I didn't recognize. Lauren walked to it, opened the passenger door, and got in. I couldn't see the driver from the camera angle, but I watched the car back out of my driveway and disappear down the street. My wife, who was supposed to be in a coma in the bedroom above my head, had just left our house with a stranger. The meeting continued around me. I have no idea what was said for the next hour and 40 minutes. I made appropriate noises when expected, nodded at my screen, and counted every second until 10 p.m. The moment the call ended, I ran upstairs. The bedroom was exactly as it should be. Lauren was in bed, covers pulled up to her chest, head tilted slightly to the left on the pillow. Her eyes were closed, her breathing steady and unchanged. The monitors showed normal vitals. Everything looked exactly as it had when I'd left 2 hours ago, except she wasn't wearing the hospital gown anymore. She was wearing different clothes under the blanket, I could tell. And when I pulled back the covers slightly, I saw the jeans and sweater she'd put on before leaving. Someone had put her back in bed, but they'd been in a hurry. They hadn't changed her back into her hospital gown. I checked the laptop. The camera had stopped recording at 9:53 p.m. 7 minutes of footage showed Lauren returning to the bedroom, changing quickly back into her hospital gown, and positioning herself in bed exactly as she'd been before. The silver Honda had dropped her off at 9:48, according to the dashcam. She'd timed it perfectly. 2 hours, almost to the minute. I stood in that bedroom for a long time, watching Lauren breathe, trying to reconcile what I'd seen with what I was seeing now. This woman who looked unconscious, who I'd cared for every single day for 3 years, who I'd advocated to, exercised with, grieved over. She was faking it. All of it. The next morning, I called Patricia and told her I had a work emergency and would need to cancel her visit. Then I called the PSW and did the same. I told them I'd reschedule next week. I needed time to think, to plan. I couldn't confront Lauren yet. I needed to know more. How long had this been going on? Where was she going? Who was she with? And most importantly, why? The why was what kept me up that night, staring at the ceiling while Lauren slept peacefully beside me. Why would someone fake a coma for 3 years? Why would she let me care for her, sacrifice my life, my career advancement, my sanity, all while she was perfectly fine? Wednesday came again. This time, I was ready. At 7 p.m., an hour before my team meeting, I told Lauren I wasn't feeling well and thought I might have food poisoning. "I'm going to drive to the pharmacy and get something for my stomach," I said, keeping my voice level. "I'll probably stop by the 24-hour clinic too, just to be safe. Might be gone a few hours." I kissed her forehead, grabbed my keys, and left. But I didn't go to the pharmacy. I drove 2 blocks away and parked on a side street with a clear view of our house. Then I waited. At 8:15, right on schedule, lights went on in the bedroom. I watched through binoculars as shadows moved behind the curtains. 10 minutes later, Lauren walked out the side door. The silver Honda pulled up exactly at 8:30. This time, I followed it. We drove through Toronto's East End, heading toward the beach's neighborhood. The Honda was careful, staying at the speed limit, using turn signals. Nothing that would draw attention. We drove for 20 minutes before the car pulled into the driveway of a small bungalow on Woodbine Avenue. I parked down the street and watched as Lauren got out of the passenger side. The driver got out too, finally visible in the porch light. He was tall, maybe late 30s, with dark hair and the kind of build that suggested regular gym visits. He put his arm around Lauren's waist as they walked to the front door. She leaned into him, laughing at something he said. They looked like a couple coming home after work. I sat in my car, hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles were white. 3 years. 3 years I'd been caring for her, loving her, hoping she'd come back to me. 3 years I'd put my life on hold, turned down promotions that would have required office time, said no to David's invitations to get out of the house, to live a little. 3 years she'd been living another life. I waited 30 minutes, then drove home. I was back by 9:15, sitting in my office when Lauren returned at 9:50. I listened to the soft sounds of her moving upstairs, changing back into her hospital gown, positioning herself in bed. Then silence. I went upstairs at 10, just like I would have if I'd actually been on my team call. "Hey," I said softly, walking into the bedroom. Meeting ran a bit late. Lauren lay still, eyes closed, breathing steady, the perfect picture of someone in a minimally conscious state. I spent the next week gathering evidence. I installed more cameras. I followed the Honda 3 more times, always to the same bungalow. I took photos of Lauren getting in and out of the car, photos of her with the man, photos of them together looking like any normal couple. I hired a private investigator, a woman named Sarah Chen, who'd been recommended by a lawyer friend. "I need you to tell me everything," I told her. "Who he is, how long this has been going on, all of it." Sarah worked fast. Within 3 days, she had a file for me. His name was Ryan Caldwell. He was 38, worked as a physical therapist at a clinic in Scarborough. He'd been renting the bungalow for 4 years. 4 years. That meant Lauren had known him before the accident. Sarah dug deeper. Ryan and Lauren had met at a yoga studio in 2019. They'd been seeing each other for 6 months before Lauren's accident. According to Ryan's social media, which he'd locked down but Sarah had ways around, they were still very much together. There were photos on a private Instagram account. Lauren and Ryan at restaurants, at the beach, on weekend trips to Niagara-on-the-Lake, all time stamped over the past 3 years. In every photo, Lauren looked healthy, happy, vibrant, living the life she was supposed to be living with me. "There's more," Sarah said when she handed me the file. "I found medical records. Someone paid a doctor $5,000 to falsify Lauren's condition assessment 6 months after the accident. Her real MRI results showed normal brain function. The report Dr. Patel saw was altered." I stared at her. "How?" "The doctor lost his license last year for insurance fraud. He was running a whole operation, helping people fake disabilities for insurance money, workers' comp claims, that kind of thing. Lauren and someone else, probably Ryan, paid him to make her look worse than she was. But why?" The question came out as barely a whisper. Why would she do this? Sarah's expression was sympathetic but matter-of-fact. She'd probably seen worse in her line of work. "Your insurance policy. You had excellent coverage through your employer, including long-term care. It was paying for all her home care, equipment, medications, about $4,800 a month. For 3 years, that's over $170,000. The room tilted. She's been collecting insurance money while living with him? The money was being deposited into an account in her name. Ryan was listed as a co-signer, added 8 months after the accident. They've been withdrawing it regularly. I thought I might be sick. And the monitoring equipment? Her vitals are always normal when Patricia checks. The equipment is real, but it's monitoring someone who's healthy and just lying still. When you're not looking, she gets up, exercises, lives normally. She's probably in better shape now than she was before the accident because she has to stay fit enough to fake being unconscious when people are watching. I spent 2 more weeks making sure I had everything I needed. Every Wednesday night visit documented, bank records showing the insurance deposits and withdrawals, the falsified medical reports and the doctor who'd created them, photos of Lauren walking, driving with Ryan, living her life. I contacted my insurance company's fraud investigation unit. I contacted a lawyer who specialized in insurance fraud and breach of marital contract. I contacted the police. And then, on a Wednesday night, I didn't go downstairs for my team meeting. Instead, I sat in the bedroom, lights off, waiting. At 8:17, Lauren stirred. She did her usual routine, checking her watch, sitting up slowly. She stretched, yawned, and got out of bed. I turned on the lamp. She froze halfway to the closet. For a moment, we just stared at each other. 3 years of lies hanging in the air between us. Marcus. Her voice was rough from not using it regularly, but it was her voice. The voice I'd fallen in love with. The voice I'd thought I'd never hear again. I can explain. Can you? I stood up from the chair in the corner. Can you explain 3 years of letting me believe you were in a coma? 3 years of me caring for you, talking to you, grieving for you, while you were perfectly fine? It wasn't supposed to. She stopped, seemed to gather herself. I never meant for it to go this long. How long was it supposed to go? She looked away. I don't know. A few months, maybe. Just until I figured things out. Figured what out, Lauren? Whether you wanted to be with me or with Ryan. Her eyes snapped back to me. You know about Ryan? I pulled out my phone and showed her the photos. Lauren at the bungalow. Lauren and Ryan at a restaurant. Lauren getting out of the silver Honda, laughing, completely healthy. I know everything, I said. I know you were seeing him before the accident. I know you paid a doctor to falsify your medical reports. I know about the insurance money. I know you've been stealing from me, from the insurance company, from everyone who trusted you for 3 years. I was confused, she said, and now there were tears in her eyes. Real or fake, I didn't know anymore. After the accident, I was hurt, but not as bad as they thought. But Ryan said it was a sign that I'd been given a chance to start over, to choose the life I really wanted, and I panicked. I didn't know what to do, so I just kept pretending. For 3 years, I was going to tell you. So many times, I almost told you. But then it had been too long, and I didn't know how to stop it without losing everything. You're going to lose everything anyway. And that's when she changed. The tears stopped. Her expression hardened. You can't prove anything. It's your word against mine. I'll say I was confused, that I don't remember those times. I'll say the cameras are fake, that you edited them. Who's going to believe you over someone who's been in a coma? A judge will, I said, when he sees the medical records showing you paid for falsified reports. When he sees the bank statements showing you've been withdrawing insurance money while living with Ryan. When he hears from Patricia that you never showed any signs of improvement in 3 years, yet somehow you were physically fit enough to go on weekend trips. I pulled out a folder and dropped it on the bed between us. I have everything, Lauren. Every Wednesday night visit, every lie, every dollar you stole. The insurance company's fraud investigators have already opened a case. The police are involved. Your boyfriend Ryan is being charged as an accessory. She picked up the folder with shaking hands and flipped through it. I watched her face as she realized how thoroughly I'd documented everything. What do you want? She finally asked. I want you to leave. Tonight. Now. Take whatever's yours and get out of my house. The divorce papers are being filed tomorrow. The insurance company is suing for full restitution plus damages. The Crown is deciding whether to file criminal charges for fraud over $5,000. Marcus, please. 3 years, Lauren. You took 3 years of my life. You let me grieve for you while you were living with another man. You let me sacrifice everything while you were collecting money from insurance fraud. You don't get to ask me for anything. She left that night, grabbed some clothes, the purse from the closet, and walked out the side door one last time. The silver Honda was waiting. I watched from the bedroom window as she got in, and they drove away. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the bedroom, surrounded by medical equipment that had never been necessary, looking at the empty bed where my wife had pretended to be unconscious for 3 years. The legal process took 14 months. Lauren tried to claim she'd been confused, that the head injury had caused dissociative episodes, but the medical evidence was clear. The falsified reports, the real MRI scans, the testimony from the doctor who'd lost his license, all of it painted a picture of deliberate fraud. The insurance company won their lawsuit. Lauren was ordered to pay back every dollar, plus damages, plus legal fees. The total came to over $300,000. Her wages were garnished. The bungalow Ryan had been renting was seized to help cover the debt. The Crown decided not to pursue criminal charges, largely because Lauren agreed to the restitution and cooperated with the investigation. But Ryan wasn't so lucky. His involvement in the insurance fraud scheme cost him his physiotherapy license and resulted in a suspended sentence with probation. The divorce was finalized last month. I got everything. The house, our savings, even her car that had been in storage since the accident. The judge wasn't sympathetic to someone who'd committed fraud to avoid their marriage. I'm still in the house. I've redecorated the bedroom, gotten rid of all the medical equipment. Patricia still texts me sometimes to check how I'm doing. David comes by every week for dinner. I've started dating again, carefully, taking it slow. But here's what I want you to understand. Here's the lesson I learned from all of this. Trust is important in any relationship, but verification is just as important. When things don't add up, when your instincts tell you something's wrong, pay attention. Don't dismiss those small observations. The painted nails, the changed clothes, the physical inconsistencies. I spent 3 years being the devoted husband, believing what I was told by doctors, by the woman I loved, by everyone around me. And I was wrong to be so trusting without being observant. But here's the other thing I learned. You can survive betrayal. You can rebuild your life after someone takes years from you. It's hard. Some days I'm angry at myself for not noticing sooner. Other days I'm angry at Lauren for what she did. Most days I'm just tired. But I'm surviving. I'm moving forward. And if you're in a situation where something feels off, where small details don't make sense, I'm telling you now, investigate. Ask questions. Verify what you're being told. Don't let loyalty and love blind you to the truth. Because the truth, as painful as it might be, is always better than living a lie. I've since learned that medical fraud in long-term care situations is more common than most people realize. Families trust doctors, trust caregivers, trust their loved ones. And most of the time, that trust is justified, but not always. Now, I work with an organization that helps families navigate long-term care situations. I share my story, help people understand warning signs, provide resources for getting second medical opinions, and verifying diagnoses. It's become a kind of therapy for me, turning something terrible into something that might help others. The house feels bigger now, quieter. Sometimes I walk past the bedroom and remember those 3 years. Remember talking to Lauren, reading to her, exercising her arms and legs while she lay there pretending to be unconscious. Remember loving someone who was lying to me every single day. But mostly, I remember that moment when I saw her sit up on the camera feed. That moment when everything I believed shattered. Because that moment, as devastating as it was also the moment I started getting my life back. And I wouldn't trade that truth for anything. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening. If this story resonated with you, if you've experienced something similar or know someone who has, please share it. And remember, trust is earned, not given. Verify what you're told. Pay attention to the details. Your life might depend on it.